There is something deeply unsettling about this diner. At first glance, nothing dramatic is happening. Four people sit inside a late-night restaurant. A waiter stands behind the counter. Coffee cups, stools, glass windows, a quiet street outside. But then you notice the first strange detail. There is no door. We can see everything. We are close enough to study the faces, the hands, the cups, the empty stools, but we cannot enter. The glass wraps around the corner like a transparent wall, turning the viewer into an outsider. And that is why Edward Hopper's Nighthawks feels less like a simple city scene and more like a frozen frame from a film noir that never begins. A story is about to happen here. Or maybe it already happened, and we arrived too late. Look carefully at the architecture. The diner is completely exposed, but also completely sealed. Hopper gives us a perfect view and then blocks our access. This is one of the painting's quiet tricks. The place looks open, yet it is unreachable. It glows like a refuge, but it also feels like a cage. The Art Institute of Chicago notes that the scene was inspired by a restaurant Hopper had seen on Greenwich Avenue in New York, but that the final image is not a realistic copy of an actual place. Hopper took reality and transformed it into something sharper, emptier, and more mysterious. The first customer sits with his back to us. We never see his face. He wears a dark suit and hat, and his body almost merges with the blue-green shadow behind him. He could be anyone: a businessman, a traveler, a man who cannot sleep, a stranger hiding from the night. Because his face is hidden, he becomes the easiest figure to project ourselves onto. In a strange way, he is already doing what we are doing. He is inside the diner, but he is also outside the conversation. Across the counter, the other two customers sit close together: a man in a dark suit, a red-haired woman in a red dress. They may have arrived together. They may be a couple. Their hands are near each other. Their bodies are near each other, but their eyes do not meet. This is the second mystery of Nighthawks. People are close, but connection keeps failing. The woman looks down, absorbed by something in her hand. The man looks forward, stiff and silent. Nothing about them is openly dramatic, and yet the space between them feels enormous. Then there is the waiter. He leans forward in his white uniform, caught in the brightest part of the diner. His mouth seems slightly open, as if he is about to speak, but even he does not truly connect with anyone. Is he asking a question? Is he listening? Is he simply passing time until morning? Behind him stand two shining coffee urns, ordinary objects, but Hopper paints them with strange importance. They look almost mechanical, almost ceremonial, as if this diner is not just a restaurant, but a small stage where every object has been placed with precision. This is how Hopper builds suspense. Not through action, but through silence. A cup becomes a clue. A hand becomes a clue. An empty stool becomes a clue. The counter itself becomes a border, dividing the figures into small islands. The diner is filled with things that should suggest comfort: coffee, light, service, warmth. But nothing feels comforting for long. Outside, the city is almost dead. There are no pedestrians, no cars, no movement. Even the buildings across the street seem abandoned. In the dark storefront on the left, we can barely make out a cash register, a small sign that ordinary business exists here during the day. But now, the city has shut down. The register has no clerk. The windows have no faces. The street has no destination. This is not just night. It is suspension. Hopper lived for decades in Greenwich Village. He knew the city not as a tourist, but as someone who walked it, observed it, and absorbed its strange late-night emptiness. The Whitney Museum notes that Hopper once said, "Nighthawks was suggested by a restaurant on Greenwich Avenue where two streets meet." That matters, because Greenwich Avenue cuts diagonally across Manhattan's grid, creating sharp, unusual corners, exactly the kind of geometry we see in this diner. So the diner was not pure fantasy, but it was not simple documentary either. It was New York, filtered through memory, observation, and unease. Above the glass, there is a small sign advertising Philly cigars for 5 cents. It sounds like a minor detail, but it anchors the whole scene in everyday America. This is not a glamorous restaurant, not a luxury bar, not a place for grand events. It is a corner diner with cheap cigars, coffee, and people who have nowhere else to be. And that makes the scene even stranger, because Hopper takes the most ordinary setting imaginable and makes it feel like the beginning of a mystery. This is why Nighthawks feels so close to film noir. Men in hats, a woman in red, a city at night, harsh, artificial light, a glass wall, a silence that feels too controlled. But Hopper does something more unsettling than a filmmaker would normally do. He removes the plot. There is no detective, no visible crime, no weapon, no chase, no confession. He gives us the mood of noir without the story. The atmosphere remains, but the explanation has disappeared. The result is a scene that feels cinematic because it behaves like a still frame. The camera is outside. The actors are lit. The set is perfect, but the script is missing. Now look at the date. 1942. America had just entered the Second World War after Pearl Harbor. Cities were adjusting to fear, waiting, news from overseas, and the sense that ordinary life could be interrupted at any moment. There is no soldier in Nighthawks, no flag, no battlefield, no explosion. But the anxiety of the period seems to press against the glass. The Metropolitan Museum of Art describes Hopper's urban interiors as scenes where figures are often isolated, silent, and psychologically distant, and it connects Nighthawks to his larger vision of modern American solitude. This context changes the painting. Maybe the diner is not simply lonely. Maybe it is one of the few places still awake in a frightened city. The light is one of the most powerful characters in the painting. Inside, everything is exposed. The counter, the faces, the cups, the waiter's uniform. Outside, the street sinks into blue and green darkness. The light should make the diner feel safe. But Hopper makes it almost too bright, too clean, too theatrical. It does not simply comfort the people inside. It reveals them. So the question becomes uncomfortable. Are these people protected from the darkness or trapped by the light? This brings us back to the missing door. The absence is so simple that many viewers do not notice it at first, but once you see it, the entire painting changes. A diner should be a place of entry and exit. People come in, drink coffee, talk, leave. But here, Hopper has removed the mechanism of escape. The glass turns the restaurant into an aquarium. We watch the figures through a transparent barrier. They are visible, illuminated, close, and unreachable. The Smithsonian has also pointed out that the seamless plate glass window and lack of visible entrance make the figures seem almost trapped in a world with no obvious escape. The faces are calm, but not peaceful. No one smiles. No one gestures dramatically. No one turns toward us. The man with his back to us is unreadable. The waiter may be speaking, but no one seems to be listening. The couple sits close together, but emotionally, they drift in different directions. Hopper does not paint loneliness as a single person alone in a room. He paints something more disturbing: loneliness among other people. There is another layer here. Hopper's wife, Josephine Nivison Hopper, played a major role in his artistic life. She kept detailed records of his paintings and often posed for female figures. Accounts discussed by museums and art historians connect Jo to the red-haired woman in Nighthawks, while Hopper himself posed for the male figures. That fact makes the scene even more complex. These anonymous strangers were partly built from the bodies of the artist and his wife. The loneliness is staged by two people who knew each other intimately. So maybe the painting is not only about being alone in a city. Maybe it is about the stranger feeling of being alone beside someone. Notice what Hopper leaves out. There is no door. There are no pedestrians. There is no clock. There is no clear conversation. And there is almost no narrative information. We do not know who these people are, where they came from, what they want, or what will happen when they leave if they leave. The painting feels full because it is visually precise, but emotionally, it is built around absence. The absence of a clock is especially important. What time is it? Midnight? 3 in the morning? Almost dawn? The title gives us only night. The coffee suggests a long wait. The empty street suggests that normal life has paused, but without a visible clock, the scene becomes timeless. Again, these people are not simply sitting in 1942. They are sitting in a permanent late hour, the hour when thoughts become louder, when the city feels unreal, when silence begins to feel like pressure. This is why Nighthawks continues to feel modern. We recognize it. Not because we have been in this exact diner, but because we know the feeling, being surrounded by people and still feeling separate, looking through a window, waiting somewhere at night, wanting connection, but not knowing how to begin. Hopper once resisted overly simple explanations of his work, but he also admitted that, perhaps unconsciously, he was painting the loneliness of a large city. That is why the painting does not feel like a puzzle with one correct answer. It feels more like a mirror. Hopper created the conditions. The viewer completes the emotion. So what is the real secret of Nighthawks? Maybe it is not hidden in one object, not in the cigar sign, not in the cups, not even in the missing door. Maybe the secret is the structure itself. Hopper paints a world where everything is visible, but nothing is explained. People without biographies. A city without movement. A diner without an entrance. A light that both saves and exposes. That is why the painting feels like film noir. Not because something violent is happening, but because the scene is charged with the possibility that something could happen and with the darker possibility that nothing ever will. In the end, Nighthawks is not only a painting of people in a diner. It is a painting of distance. The distance between strangers. The distance between two people sitting side by side. The distance between the viewer and the scene. The distance between light and darkness. The distance between what we see and what we can never know. And perhaps that is why, more than 80 years later, we still stop in front of this diner. We keep looking for the door. We keep inventing stories for these people. We keep wondering whether the light is a refuge or a trap. So here is the question. When you look at Nighthawks, what do you see? A place where lonely people come to survive the night, or a glass cage where no one can truly reach anyone else?